Deep within the archaeological layers of ancient Palestine lies evidence that challenges everything scholars thought they knew about one of history's most famous battles. What began as routine excavation work has uncovered findings so disturbing that several research teams have quietly abandoned their sites, leaving behind only cryptic notes and unexplained phenomena that suggest the biblical account of David and Goliath may have been far more literal than anyone dared imagine. First, subscribe to never miss another investigation into the impossible. It was late September 1993 when Dr. Margaret Chen and her archaeological team first broke ground in the valley of Elah, approximately 15 miles southwest of Jerusalem. The site, known locally as Wadi-e-Sant, stretched across rolling hills where ancient olive groves cast long shadows over weathered limestone outcroppings. According to biblical accounts, this unremarkable valley witnessed one of history's most decisive single combats between the shepherd boy David and the Philistine giant Goliath. Dr. Chen's expedition operated under the auspices of the Israel Antiquities Authority, tasked with documenting Iron Age settlements in the region. The team consisted of 12 specialists, including Dr. James Morrison, a physical anthropologist from Oxford, and Dr. Sarah Goldstein, an expert in ancient weaponry from Tel Aviv University. Their initial survey revealed pottery shards and bronze implements, consistent with 10th century BCE occupation, precisely the period when biblical scholars placed the legendary confrontation. The first anomaly emerged during the third week of excavation. While documenting a section of what appeared to be an ancient military encampment, graduate student Michael Torres discovered a series of bronze arrowheads embedded in the hillside at impossible angles. The projectiles penetrated solid rock to depths exceeding 3 feet, as if fired with tremendous force from positions that would have required the archers to be suspended in midair. Dr. Morrison's analysis revealed that the arrowheads bore Philistine craftsmanship, but their bronze composition contained trace elements not found in any known ancient metallurgy. Spectrographic analysis identified isotopic signatures that suggested the metal originated from geological formations dating back millions of years, yet the weapons themselves showed clear evidence of deliberate manufacture during the Iron Age. More disturbing discoveries followed. The team uncovered a mass burial site containing the remains of approximately 40 individuals, all bearing evidence of violent death. The skeletal remains showed unusual trauma patterns, with multiple fractures suggesting the victims had been struck by projectiles traveling at velocities far exceeding what ancient weapons could achieve. Several skulls displayed perfectly circular holes, as if pierced by objects moving with rifle-like precision. Dr. Goldstein's weapon analysis revealed fragments of what appeared to be sling stones scattered throughout the burial site. These were not the crude river rocks typically associated with ancient warfare, but perfectly spherical projectiles carved from a dense black stone that geologists could not identify. The stones measured exactly 2 inches in diameter, and each one bore microscopic engravings that formed intricate geometric patterns invisible to the naked eye. The most unsettling discovery came during the excavation's 5th week. While clearing debris from what appeared to be a collapsed structure, the team uncovered a section of the valley floor that had been deliberately covered with massive stone blocks. Beneath these blocks lay evidence of something that challenged every assumption about the biblical account. The concealed area contained the partial remains of an extraordinarily large human skeleton. Dr. Morrison's preliminary measurements indicated an individual standing approximately 9 feet 6 inches tall, with B1 density far exceeding normal human parameters. The skull showed pronounced brow ridges and enlarged eye sockets, while the limb bones displayed muscle attachment points suggesting physical strength beyond modern human capability. Bronze armor fragments found with the remains bore Philistine decorative motifs, But the metalwork showed a sophistication that surpassed known Iron Age techniques. The armor pieces fit together with mechanical precision, featuring articulated joints and reinforcement patterns that suggested knowledge of advanced engineering principles. Most remarkably, the bronze showed no signs of corrosion despite being buried for nearly 3 millennia. Dr. Chen's team documented these findings with meticulous care, but their work was interrupted by a series of inexplicable equipment failures. Digital cameras malfunctioned when photographing the skeletal remains, producing images that showed empty ground where bones clearly lay. Ground-penetrating radar returned contradictory readings, sometimes indicating solid rock where excavation revealed empty space, and sometimes showing vast underground chambers that physical exploration proved did not exist. Local workers hired to assist with the excavation began reporting strange dreams after the giant's remains were uncovered. Multiple individuals described identical nightmares of a massive figure walking through the valley, carrying weapons that gleamed with unnatural light. Several workers abandoned the site without explanation, leaving behind personal belongings and unpaid wages. The investigation took a more disturbing turn when Dr. Morrison attempted to extract bone samples for carbon dating. The skeletal remains proved remarkably resistant to standard sampling techniques, with diamond-tipped drill bits failing to penetrate the bone matrix. When samples were finally obtained using laser cutting equipment, the resulting fragments crumbled to dust within hours of exposure to air, making conventional analysis impossible. Dr. Goldstein's study of the battlefield revealed additional anomalies that suggested the biblical account might have been sanitized for religious purposes. Scorch marks in the bedrock formed patterns consistent with extreme heat exposure, as if the ground itself had been subjected to temperatures exceeding those of conventional fires. These heat signatures extended in straight lines across the valley, creating geometric patterns that seemed to radiate from the location where the giant's remains were discovered. Archaeological evidence indicated that the site had been deliberately sealed shortly after the battle occurred. The massive stone blocks covering the giant's remains showed tool marks consistent with hasty placement, and the surrounding area contained evidence of a large-scale construction effort involving hundreds of workers. This suggested that ancient authorities had made extraordinary efforts to conceal whatever had transpired in the valley. The team's work was further complicated by the discovery of written records hidden beneath the stone covering. Clay tablets bearing cuneiform inscriptions described events that paralleled the biblical account, but included details that painted a far more disturbing picture. According to these texts, the giant warrior was not simply a large human, but something that had emerged from deep underground chambers, bringing with it weapons and armor that seemed to operate through unknown principles. The tablets described David's victory in terms that suggested divine intervention of a particularly violent nature. The text spoke of the giant's body being consumed by fire that burned without fuel, leaving only bones that had to be buried immediately to prevent them from corrupting the surrounding land. The accounts mentioned that David's sling stone had been blessed by priests using rituals that were forbidden to record in detail. Dr. Chen's team attempted to locate the underground chambers mentioned in the tablets, but their excavation efforts were halted by Israeli military authorities, who classified the site under national security provisions. The official explanation cited concerns about structural stability, but team members noted that military personnel showed unusual interest in the giant's remains. The final phase of the excavation was marked by increasingly bizarre phenomena. Team members reported that the giant's skeleton appeared to change position between documentation sessions, despite being surrounded by undisturbed sediment. Photographs taken on consecutive days showed subtle but unmistakable differences in the arrangement of bones, as if the remains were slowly reassembling themselves. Dr. Morrison's final report, submitted to the Israel Antiquities Authority in December 1993, concluded that the Valley of Elah contained evidence of a significant battle dating to the 10th century BCE, but recommended that further excavation be postponed pending additional research. The report made no mention of the giant's remains or the associated anomalies, stating only that certain findings required specialized analysis that exceeded the team's current capabilities. The site was officially closed to archaeological investigation in January 1994, with the stated reason being potential hazards to excavation teams. The giant's remains were transferred to an undisclosed location, and all artifacts were classified under Israeli antiquities laws that restrict public access to sensitive historical materials. Dr. Chen's subsequent attempts to publish her findings were blocked by academic journals that cited insufficient peer review and concerns about the implications of her conclusion. Several team members reported being contacted by government officials who requested that they refrain from discussing their work at the site, citing national security considerations that were never clearly explained. The biblical account of David and Goliath continues to be taught as a story of faith triumphing over overwhelming odds, but the archaeological evidence suggests that the reality may have been far more complex and disturbing than religious texts indicate. What do you think really happened in the Valley of Elah nearly 3,000 years ago? And why would modern authorities go to such lengths to conceal archaeological evidence of a biblical battle? Subscribe to explore more cases where ancient history collides with inexplicable modern mysteries.